The rain was pouring down hard that evening when 24-year-old Lily sat in the back seat of her uncle's car, watching the city lights fade behind her. She clutched a small suitcase on her lap, the only thing she was allowed to bring from what used to be her home. Her eyes were red from crying, but no more tears would come. She felt completely numb. Just 3 days ago, her life had been different. Not good, but at least familiar. She lived with her uncle's family in their big house in the city. They never let her forget that she was there out of charity, that her own parents had died when she was young and left her with nothing. But 3 days ago, everything got worse. Much worse. Her cousin Rachel was getting married. It was supposed to be the wedding of the year. Rachel was thin, beautiful, and engaged to the son of a wealthy businessman. The whole family had spent months planning every detail. Lily tried to stay out of the way, but her aunt insisted she help serve drinks during the reception. "At least make yourself useful," her aunt had said with that look she always gave Lily, the one that said she was disappointed just looking at her. Lily had been carrying a tray of champagne glasses when it happened. She was trying to move quickly through the crowd of guests, trying not to draw attention to herself, but someone's foot caught hers. Maybe it was an accident, maybe it wasn't. Either way, Lily stumbled forward and couldn't catch herself. The tray went flying and she fell right into the 5-tier wedding cake. The sound of gasps filled the room. Lily lay there in the ruins of the cake, cream and frosting covering her dress, her face, her hair. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Rachel started screaming. Her perfect wedding cake, the one that cost more than most people's cars, was destroyed. The photographer had caught everything. Within an hour, videos were all over social media. Her uncle didn't speak to her for 2 days. When he finally called her into his office, his face was cold. "You've embarrassed this family for the last time," he said. "I've made arrangements. There's a farmer in the countryside who needs a wife. He's willing to take you. You'll leave tomorrow," Lily had begged. She promised she'd find a job, move out, anything. But her uncle wouldn't listen. "This is decided," he said. "At least this way you'll be useful to someone. The farmer needs help with his land. You'll work for your keep." That was it. 24 years of being treated like a burden, and now she was being sent away like unwanted furniture. Her aunt had packed her suitcase, throwing in only old clothes and basic necessities. "Don't expect to come back," she'd said flatly. Now, as the car drove further into the countryside, Lily watched the buildings get smaller and fewer. They passed through tiny villages with dim streetlights, then areas with no lights at all. She had no phone anymore. Her uncle had taken it, saying she wouldn't need it where she was going. She had exactly $30 in her pocket, money she'd saved from doing small tasks around the house. After 3 hours of driving, the car turned onto a dirt road. Lily could barely see anything in the darkness and rain. Finally, they stopped in front of a small wooden house. Paint was peeling from the walls and a dim light glowed from one window. This was it. This was going to be her life now. Her uncle's driver opened her door without a word. She stepped out into the mud, her shoes immediately sinking in. The driver dropped her suitcase next to her and got back in the car. Before she could even process what was happening, the car was driving away, its red taillights disappearing into the darkness. Lily stood there in the rain, soaked and shivering, staring at the small house. She wanted to run, but where would she go? She had no money, no phone, no one who cared about her. Slowly, she picked up her suitcase and walked toward the front door. Before she could knock, the door opened. A man stood there, backlit by the warm light from inside. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, wearing worn jeans and a simple shirt. His face was weathered, like someone who spent all his time outdoors. He looked at her for a moment, taking in her soaked clothes and scared expression. "You must be Lily," he said quietly. His voice was deep but gentle. "Come in. He'll catch cold out here." She stepped inside, dripping water onto the wooden floor. The house was small but clean. There was a simple living room with an old couch and a wood stove burning warmly in the corner. The kitchen was tiny, just a few cabinets and an old stove. Everything looked like it was at least 20 years old. "I'm Thomas," the man said, closing the door behind her. "Let me get you a towel." He disappeared into another room and came back with a large, worn towel. Lily took it with shaking hands and dried her face and hair. She didn't know what to say. This stranger was now her husband. Her family had literally sold her to him like property. "You hungry?" Thomas asked. "I made soup earlier. It's still warm." Lily hadn't eaten since breakfast, but her stomach was twisted in knots. Still, she nodded. She didn't know when she'd get another chance to eat. Thomas ladled soup into 2 bowls and set them on a small wooden table. He sat down and gestured for her to join him. The soup was simple, just vegetables and broth, but it was hot and tasted good. They ate in silence for a while. "I know this isn't what you wanted," Thomas finally said, not looking at her. "Your uncle made it clear you were being sent here as punishment. I want you to know something, though. You're not a prisoner here. You're not a servant. This is your home now, too." Lily looked up at him, surprised. She'd expected him to list the work she'd need to do, to tell her the rules she'd have to follow. "I know the house isn't much," Thomas continued, glancing around, "and farm life is hard work. But I'll never raise my voice to you. I'll never make you feel like you're not good enough." He finally met her eyes. "I know what your family thinks of you. But that's their problem, not yours." Something in Lily's chest cracked open. She'd been holding herself together for 3 days, refusing to completely fall apart. But this unexpected kindness from a stranger was too much. Tears started falling down her face, and once they started, she couldn't stop them. Thomas didn't try to comfort her or tell her to stop crying. He just pushed a box of tissues across the table and let her cry. When she finally calmed down, he showed her to a small bedroom. "This is your room," he said. "There's a bathroom through that door. Take your time getting settled. We can talk more in the morning. Where will you sleep?" Lily asked, her voice hoarse. "The couch is fine," Thomas said. "I've slept there plenty of times." After he left, Lily sat on the edge of the bed and looked around the small room. There was a dresser, a closet, and a window that probably looked out over the farm, though she could only see darkness now. This was her life now. A tiny room in a tiny house, married to a poor farmer she'd just met. But as she finally lay down in the surprisingly comfortable bed, she realized something. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was being watched and judged. She didn't feel like a burden or an embarrassment. She just felt tired. Outside, the rain continued to fall. Tomorrow she'd see what her new life really looked like. But tonight, she just needed to sleep. Lily woke up to sunlight streaming through the window and the sound of a rooster crowing. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then everything came rushing back. The wedding disaster, her uncle's cold face, the long drive in the rain, Thomas. She sat up and looked around the small bedroom. In the daylight, she could see it better. The walls were painted a soft cream color, and though the furniture was old, everything was clean and well-maintained. Through the window, she could see fields stretching out in every direction under a bright blue sky. There was a knock on her door. "Lily, you awake?" Thomas's voice came through. "I made breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast. I'll be right there," she called back, surprised by how normal this felt. She quickly changed into clean clothes and splashed water on her face in the small bathroom. When she came out to the kitchen, Thomas was setting plates on the table. He'd already eaten, she could tell, but he'd made fresh food for her. "I usually eat early," he explained, "around 5:30, but I figured you needed the sleep after yesterday." Lily glanced at the clock. It was almost 8. Back at her uncle's house, her aunt would have been furious if she'd slept this late. "I'm sorry. I should have gotten up earlier to help." Thomas shook his head. "You just got here. Take your time adjusting." He poured her a cup of coffee. "I thought today I could show you around the property, help you get familiar with everything." After breakfast, they stepped outside. In the daylight, Lily could finally see the farm properly. The house sat on a small hill, with a vegetable garden on one side and a chicken coop on the other. Beyond that was a large barn that looked like it had seen better days. Fields stretched out in every direction, though most of them looked empty. "It's not much," Thomas said, following her gaze. "The chickens give us eggs. The garden produces enough vegetables for us to eat and some to sell at the market. That barn over there has some equipment and storage." They walked to the chicken coop first. About a dozen chickens pecked at the ground inside. "This will be your main job if you want," Thomas said. "Collecting eggs every morning, making sure they have food and water. It's easy once you get used to it." Lily had never been near a chicken in her life. When she opened the coop door, they scattered, clucking loudly. She jumped back. "They're more scared of you than you are of them," Thomas said with a small smile. "Here, watch." He walked in calmly and showed her where the eggs usually were, in nesting boxes along the wall. "Just reach in gently and collect them. They'll get used to you after a few days." She tried, her hand shaking slightly as she reached for an egg. When she pulled it out successfully, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment. It was just an egg, but she'd done it herself. Over the next 2 weeks, Lily settled into a routine. Every morning she collected eggs while Thomas worked in the fields. He taught her how to tend the vegetable garden, pulling weeds and watering the plants. Her hands got dirty and her back ached, but Thomas never rushed her or criticized when she made mistakes. What surprised her most was how he treated her around food. At her uncle's house, every meal had been a source of shame. Her aunt would watch what she put on her plate, making comments about her weight. Her cousins would whisper and laugh, but Thomas never said a word. He cooked simple, healthy meals and let her eat however much she wanted. Sometimes she caught herself waiting for the criticism, but it never came. "You cook really well," she told him one evening over dinner. "Where did you learn?" "My grandmother," Thomas said. "She raised me after my parents passed, taught me everything about running this place." His expression softened with memory. "She always said a farm teaches you patience. Things grow in their own time. You can't rush them." Lily wondered if he meant more than just plants, but as the days passed, she started noticing odd things, little details that didn't quite add up. One afternoon, she cut her hand while working in the garden. It wasn't deep, but it was bleeding. Thomas immediately went to get the first aid kit. When he opened it, Lily's eyes widened. Inside wasn't just basic bandages and tape. There were sterile medical supplies, professional-grade antiseptic, even prescription antibiotic ointment. This wasn't the kind of first aid kit a poor farmer would have. "You must have hurt yourself a lot to need all this," she said carefully. Thomas shrugged. "Better to be prepared." But he changed the subject quickly. Then there was the truck. Thomas drove an old pickup that was dusty and looked worn. But one day when he asked her to grab something from inside it, she noticed the dashboard. The technology was new, modern. The seat leather under the dust was barely worn. This truck couldn't be more than a year or two old. And the neighbors. A few local people stopped by during those first weeks, bringing welcome gifts or asking Thomas about farming things. But the way they talked to him was strange. They were respectful, almost formal. They called him Mr. Carter even though he asked them not to. One older woman even slightly bowed her head when she greeted him. "Why do they act like that around you?" Lily asked after one visit. "Like what? Like you're someone important?" Thomas looked uncomfortable. "I've been here a long time. People respect that, I guess. But that didn't explain everything. It didn't explain why the mailman delivered packages addressed to Carter Agricultural Holdings. It didn't explain why Thomas had a locked office in the house that he never invited her into. It didn't explain the papers she'd glimpsed once when he left his office door open. Papers with numbers that seemed way too large for a small farm operation. One morning, about 3 weeks after she'd arrived, Lily was in the barn looking for a garden tool. The barn itself was old and simple, filled with hay and basic equipment. But in the back corner, covered with a tarp, she found something that made her stop cold. Under the tarp was farming equipment, but not the kind she'd expected. These were expensive machines, professional grade, a modern tractor that looked barely used, a harvester with computer displays, equipment that cost thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. What was a poor farmer doing with machinery like this? She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Thomas standing there. He looked at the uncovered equipment, then at her, and sighed heavily. "I can explain," he said. "Then explain," Lily said, her voice shaking slightly, "because nothing makes sense. Your first aid supplies, your truck, the way people treat you, and now this equipment. Who are you, really?" Thomas was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, "Not here. Come back to the house. If we're going to talk about this, you deserve the whole truth." They walked back to the house in silence. Lily's mind was racing. Had her uncle known something she didn't? Was Thomas not who he seemed? For weeks, he'd been nothing but kind to her. But suddenly she realized she knew almost nothing about the man she'd married. Thomas made coffee with careful, deliberate movements. He was clearly trying to figure out where to start. Finally, he sat down across from her at the kitchen table. "The small farm you see, the simple life," he began slowly. "It's real, but it's not the whole picture. This house, these few acres around us, this was my grandmother's property. But Lily, I own more than just this." "How much more?" she asked quietly. Thomas met her eyes. "A lot more. About 8,000 acres across 3 counties. I'm not a poor farmer. I'm one of the largest agricultural landowners in the region." The coffee cup almost slipped from Lily's hands. 8,000 acres. She could barely comprehend that number. Then why? she whispered. Why live like this? Why let my family think you were poor? Why did you agree to marry me? Thomas leaned back in his chair. That, he said, is a longer story. Thomas stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the fields. Lily waited, her heart pounding. 8,000 acres. The number kept spinning in her head. Her uncle had sent her here thinking she was being dumped on a poor farmer who needed help. But Thomas was wealthy, very wealthy. My grandfather started with 40 acres, Thomas began, still looking out the window. He worked that land his whole life, built it up slowly. When my dad took over, he expanded it, bought neighboring properties when they came up for sale, made smart investments. By the time I inherited everything, we had about 3,000 acres. He turned to face her. I doubled it. Better equipment, better techniques, diversification. I'm good at what I do, Lily. The business side, the farming side, all of it. But success came with problems I didn't expect. What kind of problems? Lily asked quietly. Thomas sat back down, his hands wrapped around his coffee cup. People changed around me. Old friends suddenly needed loans. Distant relatives I'd never met showed up wanting help. And women, he paused, looking uncomfortable. Women who'd never given me a second glance suddenly found me interesting. But they didn't want Thomas the farmer. They wanted Thomas the landowner. So you started hiding it? In a way, I kept living here in my grandmother's old house. Kept driving modest vehicles. Did my own work instead of just managing from an office. Some people knew the truth, of course. You can't hide that much land ownership. But I stopped advertising it. Stopped going to social events where people treated me like a prize to be won. Lily was starting to understand, but one thing still didn't make sense. My uncle. He contacted you about marrying me. Why did you agree? Thomas's jaw tightened. The matchmaker your uncle used, she's someone who's helped a few families in the area arrange marriages. She knew who I really was. When she called me about your situation, I almost hung up. The way she described it made me angry. Your uncle wanted to pay someone to take you off his hands. Like you were a problem to solve. That's exactly what I was to them, Lily said bitterly. I know, and that made me curious. I asked questions. Found out about your family, their wealth, their reputation. Found out about you. Thomas met her eyes. I saw a photo of you. The matchmaker had sent it, probably thinking it would make me say no. But I didn't see what your family saw. I saw someone who looked sad, someone who'd been hurt. And I wondered what kind of people would throw away their own family like trash. Lily felt tears prickling her eyes but blinked them back. I told the matchmaker I'd meet you, but I wouldn't take their money. Your uncle insisted, said it was part of the arrangement. I refused. Eventually, they agreed to the marriage without payment, probably just happy to be rid of you. Thomas's voice was gentle now. I'm sorry. I know that's hard to hear. It's the truth, Lily whispered. I was an embarrassment to them. Too fat, too clumsy, too much of everything they didn't want. They're idiots, Thomas said firmly. I've watched you these past 3 weeks. You're smart. You learn fast. You work hard even when things are difficult. You're kind to the animals. You keep the house cleaner than I ever did. Your family didn't see your value, but that's their blindness, not your fault. Lily didn't know what to say. She'd spent so many years believing her family was right about her. Why didn't you tell me the truth from the beginning? She asked instead. Thomas sighed. Honestly, I wanted to see who you really were. If I'd told you right away that I was wealthy, everything would have changed. You might have acted differently, might have wanted things from me. I wanted us to start as equals, just two people trying to make a life work. I wanted to know if you were like all those other women who only saw dollar signs. And now? Lily asked. What do you think now? I think you're genuine. You never asked me for anything. Never complained about the simple life. You just tried your best every day. Thomas leaned forward. But I should have told you sooner. That was wrong of me. You deserve to know the truth about the man you married. They sat in silence for a moment. Lily's mind was reeling with everything she'd learned. Part of her was angry that he'd hidden this from her. But another part understood. She thought about how she might have acted if she'd known he was wealthy. Would she have been herself? Or would she have tried to be whatever she thought he wanted? So what happens now? She finally asked. That's up to you, Thomas said. I can show you everything. The full operation, the other properties, the business side of things. Or if this is too much, if you feel like I deceived you, I'll help you leave. I'll make sure you have enough money to start fresh somewhere. Anywhere you want. No strings attached. Lily looked around the small kitchen. 3 weeks ago, she'd walked into this house feeling like her life was over, like she'd been thrown away. But these had been the most peaceful 3 weeks she could remember. No one criticizing her. No one making her feel worthless. Just simple work, simple meals, and someone who treated her with basic human kindness. "I want to see it," she said. "I want to see the real scope of what you do." Thomas's face showed relief. "Okay, get your jacket. I'll take you to the main property." They got into his truck and Thomas drove down the dirt road away from the small farmhouse. After about 10 minutes, he turned onto a paved private road that Lily had never noticed before. They drove for another few minutes until they came to a gate. Thomas pressed a button on his key fob and it swung open. What Lily saw on the other side took her breath away. There was a large, beautiful house, modern but designed to fit the rural landscape. Beyond it were massive barns, equipment sheds, and office buildings. Fields stretched in every direction, some planted with crops, others prepared for planting. She could see workers on tractors in the distance and trucks moving between buildings. "This is the main hub," Thomas explained as he parked near the largest barn. "We have about 60 employees total across all the properties. This is where we coordinate everything, store the main equipment, process some crops for market." They got out and Thomas started showing her around. Inside the main barn were rows of modern farming equipment worth millions. The office building had computers tracking crop yields, weather patterns, market prices. There were managers who greeted Thomas with respect and clear familiarity. They looked curiously at Lily but were too professional to ask questions. "We grow corn, soybeans, wheat, and specialty crops depending on the season," Thomas explained as they walked through the operation. "We also lease some land to other farmers, and we've started an organic section that's doing really well." In the main office, Thomas showed her records and reports. Lily's background in accounting from the community college classes she'd taken years ago suddenly clicked. She could read these reports. She understood the numbers. "You're profitable," she said, scanning a quarterly report. "Very profitable. But you could be doing better here." She pointed to a section. "These operating costs are higher than they should be for this much acreage." Thomas looked at where she was pointing, then at her. "You can read all this?" "I took accounting classes before," she trailed off. "Before her family made her stop because they said it was a waste of money to educate her. I was pretty good at it." "This is exactly why I need a partner," Thomas said quietly. "The farming side I've got covered, but the business side, the numbers, the optimization, I could use help, real help." They spent the next few hours going over different aspects of the operation. Lily asked questions and Thomas answered them patiently. She met some of the managers, saw the processing facilities, and toured one of the other properties. As the sun started setting, they drove back to the small farmhouse on the hill. Lily's head was spinning with everything she'd seen. The scale of it all was overwhelming. "Why do you still live in the small house?" she asked as they pulled up. "You have that beautiful home." "This is real," Thomas said simply. "That house is nice, but it doesn't feel like home." "This does. My grandmother's hands built this place. I can feel her here." He looked at Lily. "But I understand if you'd rather live there. It has more space, more comfort." Lily looked at the small wooden house with its peeling paint and creaky floors. In 3 weeks it had become familiar. "Safe even. Can I think about it?" she asked. "Take all the time you need," Thomas said. "There's no rush for any decisions." That night, Lily lay in her small bedroom staring at the ceiling. Her whole understanding of her situation had shifted. She wasn't married to a poor farmer. She was married to one of the wealthiest landowners in the region. A man who chose simplicity despite having wealth. A man who'd agreed to marry her not because he needed help or wanted money, but because he was curious about the woman her family had discarded. She didn't know what to do with that information. But for the first time in her life, she felt like maybe she had real choices ahead of her. The next few weeks brought changes that Lily never expected. Thomas was true to his word about making her a real partner. Every morning after she collected the eggs and they had breakfast together, he'd take her to the main office. She started reviewing the financial reports, finding inefficiencies, suggesting improvements. The managers were skeptical at first. Who was this woman who'd suddenly appeared and started pointing out problems? But when her suggestions started saving money and improving operations, they began to listen. She restructured the supply ordering system, saving thousands. She found a better market for their organic crops, increasing profits by 15%. You have a gift for this, Thomas told her one afternoon as they reviewed the monthly reports. I've been running this operation for years, but you see things I miss. Lily felt pride bloom in her chest. For the first time in her life, she was good at something that mattered. She wasn't just useful, she was valuable, but she still went back to the small farmhouse every evening. Thomas never pushed her to move to the main house or change their simple routine. They'd cook dinner together, talk about the day, and then retreat to their separate rooms. Their marriage was still one on paper only, but a quiet friendship was growing between them. It was almost 2 months after the truth came out when everything changed again. Lily was working in the office when one of the managers came in looking uncomfortable. Mrs. Carter, there are some people here asking for you. They say they're your family. Lily's blood ran cold. Her family. Here. She walked out to the reception area, and there they were. Her uncle, her aunt, and her cousin Rachel. They were dressed expensively, looking completely out of place in the working farm office. When they saw her, her aunt's face broke into a wide fake smile. Lily, darling. There you are. Her aunt rushed forward as if to hug her, but Lily stepped back. What are you doing here? Lily asked flatly. Is that any way to greet your family? Her uncle said. But his voice was honey-sweet, so different from the cold tone he'd used when sending her away. We've been so worried about you. We came to see how you're doing. You threw me away like garbage 2 months ago, Lily said. Why would you care how I'm doing now? Rachel stepped forward, and Lily noticed she was looking around the office with calculating eyes. We heard some interesting things, cousin. Rumors that you married well, very well. We wanted to see for ourselves, so that was it. Somehow they'd found out about Thomas's wealth. How did you find out? Lily asked. Oh, word travels, her uncle said casually. We have business connections in the agriculture sector. When Thomas Carter's name came up in a meeting and someone mentioned he'd recently married, well, we put 2 and 2 together. He smiled. We always knew he was a good match for you, Lily. That's why we arranged it. Lily almost laughed at the audacity. You arranged it? You sent me here as punishment. You thought he was a poor farmer who needed free labor. Now, her aunt cut in. That's not how it was at all. We knew Thomas came from good farming stock. We thought you two would be perfect together. And look, we were right. She gestured around the office. You've landed on your feet, dear. We're so happy for you. You need to leave, Lily said, her voice shaking with anger. Lily, let's not be hasty, her uncle said. We're family. Now that you're doing so well, surely we can put the past behind us. In fact, we were hoping you and Thomas might invest in a new business venture we're starting. Just a small investment, maybe 200,000 or 300,000. There it was. They didn't care about her. They never had. They just wanted money. Get out, Lily said louder. Get out now or I'll call security. Don't be stupid, girl. Her uncle's voice turned harsh, showing his true colors. You think you're something special now? You're still the same fat, clumsy fool you always were. You got lucky, that's all. And you owe us. We raised you, fed you, gave you a home. You made my life miserable, Lily shot back. Every single day you made me feel worthless. You sent me away like I was nothing. And now you want me to give you money? Never. Now you listen here. Her uncle started, stepping toward her aggressively. Is there a problem? Thomas's voice came from behind Lily. She turned to see him standing in the doorway, his expression cold and hard. She'd never seen him look like that before. Her aunt's face brightened. Thomas, how wonderful to finally meet you properly. We're Lily's family. We were just having a little reunion. I heard everything, Thomas said coldly. This office has cameras with audio. I watched the whole conversation from my desk. He walked to stand beside Lily. And I'm telling you the same thing my wife did. Leave. Now. Your wife? Rachel laughed. Please. We all know this is just a business arrangement. She's no more your real wife than... She's more my wife than you could ever understand. Thomas interrupted. In 2 months, Lily has become my partner, my friend, and someone I respect more than anyone I've ever met. She's brilliant, hardworking, and kind. Everything you people aren't. Lily's heart was pounding. She looked at Thomas, surprised by the intensity in his voice. Now this is interesting, her uncle said with a nasty smile. You actually care about her. Well, that changes things. Maybe we should talk about what it would take for us to keep certain information private. About how this marriage really started. How we were paid to arrange it. Could be embarrassing for a man in your position. You weren't paid anything, Thomas said. I refused your money, remember? And even if you had been, I don't care who knows how we met. I'm not ashamed of my wife or our marriage. But I'll tell you what I am going to do. I have lawyers, good ones. If you come near Lily again, if you contact her, if you spread lies about her or try to extort money from us, I'll bury you in lawsuits. Harassment, defamation, attempted extortion. Try me. Her uncle's face turned red. You can't threaten us. I'm not threatening. I'm promising. You have 60 seconds to get off my property before I call the police and have you escorted off. For a moment, nobody moved. Then her aunt grabbed her uncle's arm. Let's go. They're not worth it. She shot Lily a venomous look. Enjoy it while it lasts, dear. Men like him don't stay with women like you. After they left, Lily found she was shaking. Thomas gently guided her to a chair in his office and closed the door. I'm sorry, she said. I brought my mess into your life. Our life, Thomas corrected. And you didn't bring anything. They did. He sat down across from her. Lily, I meant what I said out there. These past 2 months working with you, living with you, you've become important to me. This started as an arrangement, but it's become something more. At least for me. Lily looked up at him. For me too, she admitted quietly. Then maybe it's time we stop pretending this is temporary, Thomas said. Maybe it's time we make this marriage real. Not for convenience or arrangement, but because we choose it. Because we choose each other. Are you sure? Lily asked. You heard what my aunt said. I'm not what people expect for someone like you. You're exactly what I need, Thomas said firmly. You're smart, strong, and you see me as a person, not a bank account. You worked beside me without knowing about the money. That means everything. Lily felt tears sliding down her cheeks, but they were different from all the tears she'd cried before. These weren't from pain or humiliation. These were from hope. I'd like that, she whispered. I'd like to make this real. Thomas reached across and took her hand. It was the first time they'd really touched beyond accidental brushes. His hand was warm and calloused from work, and it felt right. That evening, instead of going to separate rooms, they sat together on the old couch and talked for hours. About their childhoods, their dreams, their fears. About what they wanted their future to look like. I want to do more than just make money, Lily said. I keep thinking about how my family treated me, how they made me feel worthless because of how I looked. There must be other people who feel that way. Maybe we could help them somehow. What are you thinking? Thomas asked. A program. We could hire people who've been marginalized or rejected by their families. Give them real jobs, real opportunities. Show them they have value, Thomas smiled. I love that idea. Let's do it. Over the next few weeks, they started planning. They'd launch a program that would hire people regardless of their appearance, background, or family situation. They'd offer fair wages, training, and support. But they also started building their personal life together. Thomas moved some of his things into the main bedroom of the small farmhouse. They were taking it slow, but they were taking it together. One night, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset over the fields, Lily realized something profound. Her family had sent her here as a punishment, expecting her to suffer. Instead, she'd found purpose, partnership, and the beginning of real love. Thank you, she said to Thomas. For what? For seeing me when no one else did. Thomas squeezed her hand. Thank you for being worth seeing. 6 months had passed since Lily's family showed up demanding money. 6 months of building something real with Thomas, something that grew stronger every day. The small farmhouse had truly become their home, filled with laughter and quiet moments that meant everything. Their new program, which they called Fresh Start Initiative, was up and running. They'd hired 15 people in the first phase, all of them individuals who'd been rejected or marginalized in some way. Some had disabilities, some had difficult pasts, some just didn't fit society's narrow definitions of acceptable. Each one brought unique skills and a hunger to prove themselves. Lily was in the office reviewing applications for the next round of hires when her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, but something made her answer. Hello? Lily, it's me, Sophie. Lily's heart skipped. Sophie was her younger sister, the only family member who'd ever shown her any kindness, though she'd been too young and scared to stand up to their uncle and aunt. Sophie, Lily said carefully, how did you get this number? I had to dig for it. Uncle and aunt don't know I'm calling. Sophie's voice was shaky. Lily, I need to apologize. I should have said this months ago, but I was scared. The way they treated you, the way we all just let them send you away, it was wrong. I was wrong. Lily felt old wounds opening. You were there when they kicked me out. You didn't say a word. I know. Sophie was crying now. I was a coward. I kept telling myself I was too young to do anything, that they'd turn on me too if I spoke up. But that's not an excuse. You're my sister and I abandoned you. I'm so sorry, Lily closed her eyes. Part of her wanted to hang up, to protect herself from more hurt. But another part remembered Sophie as a little girl, following her around, the only person in that house who'd ever hugged her without being forced to. Why are you calling now? Lily asked. Because I'm 18 now. I'm leaving for college next month and I couldn't go without trying to make this right. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that I never thought you were what they said you were. You were always the best person in that house. Lily felt tears on her cheeks. Where are you going to college? State University. I got a partial scholarship, but I'm taking loans for the rest. Uncle wanted me to stay and work in his business, but I can't stay in that house anymore. Not after what they did to you. They talked for another hour. Sophie told her about how their uncle and aunt had become obsessed with finding ways to get money from Lily and Thomas. How they'd tried to contact business associates, spread rumors, anything to get leverage, but Thomas's lawyers had shut down every attempt. Rachel's getting divorced, Sophie added. Turns out her husband's family lost a lot of money in a bad investment. The minute they weren't rich anymore, she wanted out. Uncle and aunt are furious because they were counting on that connection. Karma, Lily said softly. Before they hung up, Lily made a decision. Sophie, send me information about your college costs. The loans, the expenses, all of it. Lily, no. I'm not calling for money. I just wanted to apologize. I know, but you're doing something brave, breaking away from them. Let me help. Consider it a late birthday present for all the birthdays they wouldn't let me celebrate with you. Sophie was crying again. Thank you, and Lily, I hope someday I can meet you in person. Meet the real you, not the version of you they tried to make me believe in. I'd like that, Lily said. After the call ended, Lily told Thomas about it. He didn't hesitate. Pay for her schooling, all of it. She's trying to be better, and that deserves support. That night, Lily sent Sophie enough money to cover 4 years of college, room and board included. It felt good to help someone who was trying to escape the same toxic environment she'd fled. The Fresh Start initiative continued to grow. They'd expanded to 30 employees, and the results were remarkable. Their organic crop division, now managed by a woman who'd been rejected from every farm job because of her prosthetic leg, had become their most profitable sector. A man who'd been homeless for 3 years was now their best equipment technician. A young person who'd been disowned by their family for being different was revolutionizing their social media presence. We're not just changing their lives, Thomas said one evening as they reviewed the program's success. They're changing ours. The energy here is different now. Better, Lily smiled. That's because we're proving something important, that everyone has value if you give them a chance. But the biggest change was in Lily herself. The physical work on the farm, combined with regular meals without shame, had transformed her health. She'd lost some weight naturally, but more importantly, she felt strong. She could work all day without exhaustion. Her back didn't hurt. She could run if she needed to. But the real transformation was internal. When she looked in the mirror now, she didn't see the failure her family had told her she was. She saw a capable businesswoman, a partner, a person with worth. 1 year after Lily had arrived at the farm in the rain, Thomas surprised her. He'd been acting strange all day, nervous in a way she'd never seen him. Come with me, he said after dinner. I want to show you something. He drove them to the main property, but instead of going to the office, he took a different path. They ended up at the big house, the one Lily had only been inside a few times. What are we doing here? She asked. You'll see. He led her inside. The house had been transformed. What had been a beautiful but impersonal space was now warm and inviting. There were photos on the walls, comfortable furniture, touches that made it feel like a home. I've been working on this for months, Thomas said. The small farmhouse will always be special to us. It's where we started. But Lily, we're building something bigger now. The program is expanding. We're going to need space for meetings, for hosting the employees we're mentoring. And I thought maybe it was time we had a real home. Together. Lily walked through the rooms, seeing all the care he'd put into it. There was an office space designed for 2 where they could work side by side. A huge kitchen perfect for the cooking they'd come to love doing together. A library filled with books on farming, business, and dreams for the future. "There's one more thing," Thomas said. He led her out to the back porch. The sun was setting over the fields, painting everything gold. "Lily, this past year has been the best of my life. You came here as a stranger, someone your family threw away, but you became my partner, my best friend, and the person I want to spend every day with." He got down on one knee, and Lily's hands flew to her mouth. "I know we're already married," Thomas said with a smile, "but that was an arrangement. This is a choice. Lily, will you marry me again? For real this time? Will you choose me the way I choose you?" He pulled out a simple ring, a band etched with wheat stalks representing the life they'd built together. "Yes," Lily said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, absolutely yes." They planned a small ceremony for the following month. Not the kind of wedding her cousin had thrown, obsessed with appearances and impressing people. This would be simple, meaningful, with only the people who mattered. Sophie came. She and Lily cried and hugged, beginning to rebuild what had been broken. The employees from Fresh Start Initiative came, bringing gifts they'd made themselves. Local farmers who'd come to respect Thomas and Lily attended. It was small, maybe 50 people, but it was filled with love. As Lily stood beside Thomas exchanging vows they'd written themselves, she thought about that rainy night a year ago. She'd arrived feeling like her life was over, like she'd been thrown away as punishment for not being what her family wanted. But they hadn't thrown her away. They'd accidentally given her the greatest gift imaginable. They'd sent her to the one place where she could become who she was always meant to be. "I choose you," she said to Thomas, her voice clear and strong. "Every day for the rest of my life, I choose you." "I choose you," Thomas replied. "The woman who sees value in everyone, who turned our business into something that changes lives, who taught me that real wealth isn't measured in acres or money, but in the people you help and the love you share." After the ceremony, as they danced under strings of lights hung between the barn and the house, Lily caught sight of herself in a window. She barely recognized the confident, happy woman looking back. That scared, broken girl who'd arrived in the rain was gone. In her place was someone who knew her worth, who'd built something meaningful, who'd found real love. Her family had meant to punish her by sending her to a poor farmer. They'd never imagined she'd find a partner who saw her value. They'd never imagined she'd become successful in her own right. They'd never imagined she'd be happy. But she was. Gloriously, completely happy. "What are you thinking about?" Thomas asked as they swayed to the music. "Just that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best things," Lily said. "They sent me here as a penalty. But I found my home." Thomas pulled her closer. "We found our home, together." And as the stars came out over the fields they'd built their life on, Lily knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Not because of fate or luck, but because she'd chosen to see her worth, to work hard, to believe in possibilities. She'd been given away as punishment. But she'd gained everything that mattered. And that was the sweetest victory of all.